When you start the recording.
Okay, it should start now.
Okay, well, welcome to those of you who are here. This is the Pedestrian Advisory Committee Engineering Subcommittee meeting. And I make one announcement. Members of the board may participate remotely by telephone or other electronic means due to the local public health emergency novel coronavirus pandemic declared on March 16th, 2020, pursuant to the provisions of Minnesota statute section 13D.021. So we have one presenter today with two different, one smaller project, Dan Edgerton. So why don't we get started? Dan, I'm going to give it to you.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I am just going to share my screen. I've got a short PowerPoint slideshow that I'd like to go through with you all today. Okay. Before I do, thank you all for having me. It's been a little while since I've been before you, but I am a project planner. I'm actually a contractor. I work for Zan Associates, but I work a lot with Public Works as in sort of an extension of staff capacity. So thanks again for having me today. I'd like to talk to you about 2nd Street South, which is downtown, kind of by the Guthrie. And I've got a project which goes from 2nd Avenue on the west to 13th Avenue on the east. And so I've got maybe 10 slides. I'll kind of go through them quickly, and then I will stop for any discussion, clarifications, questions, things of that nature that you may have. Okay. So here's the project overview. This is a bad map. I have a new map coming, but the thick green line represents the project area. Kind of, as I mentioned, 2nd Ave to 13th Ave. There is this little part that bends around on 13th Ave where we're hoping to make a connection to the River Road and the trail that goes there. So that's what that's about. You get this kind of L-shaped project map. The scope for this work, really the impetus is that there's a pavement rehabilitation project coming through in 2023. And this is a kind of an opportunistic look for us to take a look at. Are there other improvements that we can make while they're going in and doing the pavement rehab? So that will include upgrading all of the ADA ramps where needed. And we're also going to take a look at evaluating options to do a protected bikeway, probably just kind of paint and sticks type of thing, but there are existing bike lanes on the corridor today. I've got some pictures I'll show you. And you know, maybe we can make them better and make it a protected bikeway. And then we're looking at some spot intersection improvements, which would make the crossings of the corridor work better for people walking. So I'll talk a little bit more about that in just a minute here. Timeline process stuff. We're really just kicking this thing off. Just started in the beginning of the year in January. We are now getting out to do some community engagement, which you are at the leading edge of, and I'll talk more about what we're going to do later. This summer, probably July timeframe, is when we'll have a recommended concept layout that will go before council. This isn't a full reconstruction, so it doesn't have the formal 30, 60, 90 steps that you're used to, but nonetheless, we're looking for having a concept down this summer before we hit detailed engineering and then installation next summer after we have the maintenance project to go through. So the order of operations is they typically would go in, do the curb ramp first, springtime-ish, then they would come in and do the mill and overlay type of thing, and then we would come in afterwards and do striping and any other improvements that we need to do. So a little bit on existing conditions. 2nd Avenue, you can see from the pictures, needs some work on the pavements, and as I mentioned, that's kind of the impetus of the project. It does have sidewalks on both sides, 2 parking lanes, 2 bike lanes, and then 2 vehicle travel lanes. This is an area where there's been a lot of residential development, so there are some nicer sidewalks that have been replaced. There are some older sidewalks that are in okay shape, and then there are some spot areas where we need to maybe look at some improvements where we can, including curb ramps, which is one of the things I mentioned. There are also, for those of you who've been down there, maybe you recognize, but what I call temporary medians in a couple of places. They look sort of like this. The purpose of those medians, they were put in a few years ago, is to better manage traffic speed and to provide a shorter pedestrian crossing, for people going back and forth between the Guthrie or the Mill District Museum and the residential development on the other side of the corridor. So we've got those temporary median configurations in two places, one at Park Ave and one at 10th Avenue. It kind of looks like this. I put this one in because I was just out there and it's kind of underwater right now. And I thought that was noteworthy because one of the things that we're going to be doing with this project is evaluating opportunities to upgrade these and make them permanent. That could be a floating median type of configuration, but I'm going to talk more about that in just a couple of slides. And then there's this kind of what I consider to be a hairy intersection at 2nd Street and 11th Avenue. About 3 years ago, there was a project on 11th Avenue that came and added protected bike lanes there. As part of that project, they did a lot of work on this intersection and ended up with the configuration that exists today. You can see it in the picture. It's got kind of the delineator separated bike lanes. It's got crosswalks. It's got two color pits. It's just a little bit complicated. So one of the things that we're going to do is to look at ways possibly to kind of clean this up or upgrade this intersection as well. I just wanted to flash this one up there. Part of the impetus for this project is this is one of the few continuous east-west bikeway connections in the area. You might say, but what about the recent Washington Avenue project, which has a great bikeway connection? It does, but it doesn't go all the way over to the freeway. It kind of stops midway. So this route, 2nd, becomes sort of the de facto east-west bikeway connection if you want to go to the Stone Arch Bridge or if you want to connect to the River Road. This is kind of the route that gets you there. Okay, I know I'm flying here. I'm going to stop talking soon, I promise. But so what is this project going to do? First, we've got to do the pavement rehabilitation. And we are going to do the curb rant when we're out there. We've got limited funding, as you all know, but while we're there, we're going to evaluate opportunities to do some intersection improvements if we can afford them, frankly. So Park Avenue and 10th Avenue are where we had those temporary medians I talked about. There's also a bump out crosswalk at the Guthrie Theater that will stay. They paid for that, but we'll look at whether or not we can upgrade that. And then we're also going to take a look at that 11th Avenue intersection I talked about. And then we'll evaluate opportunities for a protected bikeway. I would love to have a kind of a floating curb protected bikeway in the street here, but the honest answer is I don't know if we're going to be able to fit that in this project or not due to the constraints that we have. But I'm hoping at a minimum we can make improvements to the existing bikeway that's out there, with just paint and sticks type of thing. But this is all kind of what we're going to evaluate with this project. So just some pictures, intersection improvements. This is sort of how it could look. You see on the top left, the existing condition at this is at 10th Street. And on the bigger picture, this is a floating median. This is actually a little bit different project, but this is a center median type of treatment that could be installed at a project like this. And then intersection improvements. My pictures aren't good because I was just out there today and there's still snow and the trails need to be cleared, but we can look at doing some channelization at the intersections to clean things up. And making it what we would call a protected or a semi-protected intersection. That would help both bicycles and pedestrians by better managing the vehicle speeds, and it also gives you that sort of refuge space when you're crossing and helps to sort of shorten the crossing distance up. So again, this is something we need to evaluate. There's a lot of constraints in this area, but it is something, I'm at 0% now, but over the course of the spring and into the summer that we're going to be taking a look at. And then pictures of protected bikeways. I'm sure many of you are familiar of how these look. On the left is the in-street delineator protected bikeway, just kind of paint and sticks. The one on the right is the in-street curb protected. This is a higher level of treatment. It costs more. It also has a little bit more level of impact, for people trying to cross the road and that sort of thing. So those are some of the options that we'll be taking a look at as part of this project. So with that, that was a really quick and dirty introduction to this project. And I'd like to just pause and then open it up for any questions or discussion, starting with any clarifications that you need. But I'd also like to hear sort of your thoughts on how we might approach this thing moving forward. So with that, back to you,
Okay.
Ms. Chair.
I think I have one question. You're at 0%. Will you be coming back to us this summer or late spring with final design, 30%?
That's my intention. Yes.
Okay. The one thing I have to ask, and I really like some of the ideas. I mean, I think if you don't have much money, you're going to have to do a lot with paint and bollards. But when you do that, when you create a bike lane like with bollards and with paint, is there ever any textured paint put on it so people that are visually impaired get a sense that something's changed? If they're crossing the street or they're walking down, do you use any textured paint to help clarify that?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I don't know that Minneapolis has done a whole lot of that. We do the textured treatment, as you're likely aware, at intersections where we have curb ramps and things like that. That doesn't help the person who's kind of crossing mid-block from the park to the apartment building or what have you. There are sort of textured treatments that you can do. For instance, when you do, you've seen these around the city, the Bikeway symbol that's in the bike lane. Sometimes you can do a thermo type of treatment where they mill that in and it has a little bit of a texture on it. But I don't know that the city has done a whole lot with just the kind of the delineator stripes. So that's a good question. I'll take that back. I can't make any promises there, but I'll at least kind of evaluate what the options are.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question just regarding, you mentioned the money. Just so I'm clear, is this whole project including, is it lumped in the budget with the repaving project in 2023, or does this have a distinct budget that has already been generated? How does that work?
Yep.
How does that work?
Yeah, it's the latter. So there are two separate projects that are kind of happening and we're chunking together. The pavement rehab project with the ADA curb ramps have their own budget. Since that's coming in, we're kind of taking an opportunistic look, and the city has a separate pot of money for bicycle and pedestrian improvements. It's called BIC 28. It's that pot of money, and there isn't a heck of a lot for this, which is why I've got to kind of set this up in a hierarchy of needs type of recommendation.
With that being said, when does the amount of money dedicated actually get approved? Has that happened, or will that happen obviously once you present to council?
Yeah, there's two levels to that. The allocation to the fund itself gets set on an annual basis. And then they identify within that, here's our project list, but the specific funding for this project will be allocated at that council approval stage. And the honest answer is, I'm thinking that's probably fall-ish. And it's kind of a moving target as to how much of that BIC 28 fund is going to be left for this project at that point. They're kind of still working on what this year's project list looks like.
What's the last, is it a C or a K that you're saying? The last, you said BIC 28?
Yeah, K.
I'm not hearing.
Yeah.
K, okay,
Yeah,
K. I just want to make sure I get that.
Yeah, you can, it's in the city's,
Yep.
the capital improvement budget, the click, so you can check it out.
Okay, got it, thanks.
Yep.
Julia, you have a question? Julia?
Yeah, yep, sorry, I had to unmute myself. I have two questions. The first, well, two comments, I think. The first is just making sure that all legs of all intersections will have ramps. I know that's supposed to be the city's default, but it doesn't always show up when we see designs later on. So that means on T intersections, all three crossings have all their ramps.
Yep.
And markings. Awesome. And then the other question is, I don't know where we're at on the 3rd Avenue Bridge in terms of getting all 4 legs of that intersection. I know that that looks to be outside of what you're discussing in this, but it seems like that's really important for the pedestrian connections. And I don't know what's happening over there.
Yeah, okay, so the 2 pieces, yes, but they're related, right? The ramps, this project, the city is transitioning, to more proactively addressing curb ramps. And the decision was made that with this rehabilitation project, that they're, the mill and overlay, that they're gonna get the curb ramps in everywhere that they're needed. So I'll take that comment, with me to the design team and make sure that that does include sort of the T intersections. And we do a field walk, and we're just waiting for the snow to melt. So it could be, now-ish to go out and kind of get that all dialed in. But I don't have an inventory of what exactly that looks like, but it is the intention to do them all. And I can't speak. Go ahead.
In the snow? I mean, that's the conditions we face a lot, and that often also shows where we have flooding and other problems with existing ramps.
Yeah, it's a good comment. Like right now, for instance, I bet a lot of them are underwater where we're in low spots. Yeah, the engineering department kind of leads though. I'll take that leads those field walks. I'll take that comment back though. I don't have a great answer for you, but point noted.
Thank you. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but it's real conditions out there right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And on 3rd Street, I mean, I'm not sure the particulars of that project, but where we cross and curb ramps need to be done, we're going to do them. Third Ave, rather.
Yeah.
Or is it 3rd Street? Is that 3rd Street? It's 3rd Street, right? The bridge. It's a weird situation because we have a street and a street crossing because it's the bridge. Usually it's street and avenue. Anyway, sorry.
It looks like 3rd Avenue is the bridge. I always get confused because I think it turns into
me
Central, but it's the 1st street crossing where on the bridge side, at least prior to the redo, we did not have a crossing, and I have walked it and timed it. And if you want to go from being on the side of the river to staying on that side, you've had to do all 3 legs, and it's something like a 3-minute delay or more. So I don't know for sure if what's going on there, but I would love if you could use whatever conversations are part of what you're doing just to really ensure that we're getting all 4 legs of that crossing in this high density pedestrian area.
Okay, I'm making a note of it right now. Yep, I'm making a note of it right now. Yep.
Great, thank you so much. And if there's anything, like if a resolution from us that includes that would be helpful. I don't know if that's a MnDOT thing or anything, but
I don't know either. Yeah, okay. But we'll take it. I've got it up on an aerial right now, and I see exactly what you're talking about. It's that weird dog-legged crossing thing that you got to do. So, again, it's outside of the scope of this project, but I'll definitely take it back and make sure that folks are aware of the concern.
Will that sidewalk be in there on the north side of First, where there's like a bit that's new, but there's still an electric box, and I couldn't tell. I was there today, just sort of scoping out part of this project. I couldn't tell if that was temporary or or if the sidewalk will just end without a ramp.
Yeah. Yep. I'm looking at the aerial right now. Yeah, noted. Again, I'll take that back to that team and let them know about the issue.
Yeah, and I don't know if the aerial is updated because there is now a sidewalk that continues further than it did across the bridge over the Wooner entrance. Yep. So that sidewalk has been continued with the project, but it doesn't go all the way to the.
Yep. Yeah, I'm familiar. I'm actually in my office is in the Crown Roller Mill, right next to there. So I walk that way.
Nice. Okay. Yep. Thank you.
Great. Anybody else?
Any other comments or questions?
Hi, this is Eric Bauer. I work at the University of Minnesota. I just wanted to say thank you for sharing information on this project, and I'll follow up with you by email afterwards, Dan.
Great. Thank you, Eric. I appreciate that.
I have one last question. I'm just wondering if
Please.
there's any wayfinding that might be part of this, since it is kind of an area that is a destination for people who might not know the city or who might be biking and not used to biking, just for how to figure out how to connect to other routes.
Yep, there is
Like
some
that.
wayfinding sign that's out there, signage out there now, mainly on the bikeways, pointing to the different major connections that exist. Like for instance, when you get over to the Guthrie, there's a couple of different signs on that few blocks. But I'll bring that up again. It gets complicated from my perspective of trying to run the project, because I was going to say for better or for worse, but for worse, we have different sort of pots of money for all of these types of programs. So it's really hard for us to stitch things together, but there is always the opportunity while we're out there to sort of make these, just like with the Bikeway on the rehab project, to make these connections and try to line things up. So it's definitely a great comment. I'll take that back.
Thank you.
Okay, well, if there are no other comments or questions, do you have an idea when you'll be back, Dan? Do you think it'll be sometime in May or early June, or?
I'm targeting June, July timeframe.
Okay, June and July. Thank you for that.
Yep.
Okay.
All right.
Well, I think that's it. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
I'm exhausted. My minute taking hand can hardly keep up. I like a concise meeting. Well, good. Well, I still have Fruit Cup left.
There you go. You can go finish that up.
Yeah.
If
Well,
there are no announcements or anything important, we can adjourn and let Christopher finish his Fruit Cup, and we can all get on with our evening. Go ahead.
One comment. I went to I believe the park board came to us with the Cedar Isles master plan, and I went to one of the meetings that we received information about yesterday, and was hearing that they I don't believe we did a resolution for the project, but it sounds like they're throwing out some of the ideas that we were fairly strongly supportive of because of a lack of support. And I don't know if we might want to consider doing a resolution for those, even though we didn't at the time, since it turns out that they're making decisions based on perceived support or lack thereof for some of it. And maybe this isn't for right now, but since I've got you all on the line, I can email about it or talk to any of you.
Yeah, what was the part that we were supportive of that they're tossing out?
So specifically, they were looking at closing a portion of the northeast corner of the Isles Car Parkway to cars because it's a habitat crossing. There's turtles that are crossing there, and there's not any driveways or anything along that stretch. So that was one of the things. And then there was also a proposed addition of a bike lane going the other direction from where the one that is a back of curb lane, so that you would have two-way bike options on the lake. And that one is also being tentatively thrown out. And on Cedar, it sounds like they're throwing out the idea of being able to walk around the lake, which, I mean, all of those are like, I can't say I remember word for word, but I feel like those were all things that we were supportive of.
Yeah.
So, and I was hearing specifically that it's because they have been hearing opposition rather than support, but it seems, I guess we didn't think we needed to do a resolution, if I'm remembering correctly. They weren't sure we needed to, so.
Is this the one where they might not have funding between 5 and 20 years from now?
Yeah, it's that one. So it's,
yeah,
it's a little hard.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I got the impression that they didn't really want something because they're just working on something, and she thought that actually funding would become closer to the 20-year mark.
Yes.
That's a weird thing. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's so super weird because, I mean, just all other things aside, like if we're not actually massively shifting our mode share and having that level of culture shift here and across the nation, we're not really looking at a, you know, society stable enough to be having this conversation in 20 years. So I don't know. It's very odd to try to wrap my head around whether this is how good of a use of our time this is. But that is what came out of my attendance at that meeting yesterday, where I did introduce myself as a PAC member and want to be, and let them know I would be reporting back to folks here. And
Okay.
All right.
so yeah,
I don't mean to switch off of that subject, but I just want to, and I know we will wrap up, but Julia, what is your understanding of what is happening on Hennepin? There has been a delay. It seems like interjected into the process. Do you know what's going on? I mean, can you explain that to me a little bit more?
I don't know. It seems.
But am I correct that a delay has occurred, that things are being moved back a month or two for decisions?
It appears so, yes.
Okay. All right. Well, sorry about that. All right.
No worries. Yeah.
Well,
just to get back to the Isles one, is that something we would want to do or not do? Or?
Yeah, I'm just looking at it. I see the notes from the meeting, and yeah, it had one section where it was making it a one-way street, but the north end is where they were considering closing it to vehicles altogether, right?
Yeah, that one's for habitat. And then there was also, I think it was on the other plans, because the plans were just sort of putting ideas out there, not like one or the other. The other one did, I believe, show that there might be a two-way bike.
Yeah.
Bike options in both directions.
Yeah. And then it says on here, at least the notes that we have, that the construction, that it's going to be adopted by the end of 2022 and construction in 2023. That's
then I must be I see, but I thought she said that they wanted to get the design done, but that the funding was 5 to 20 years. But maybe I'm
I don't know, but it's because it says in our notes that construction will begin in 20, but maybe that's just a partial. I don't understand that. That's what the note, I'm just looking at the notes from that meeting.
Oh.
There might be stuff that is starting to get, there might be things that are reaching the end of their life. We did talk about flooding in the area, and that the path, the existing path is reaching the end of its predicted life from installation, which was after the 94 flood, at least the walking path. And so that there might be some other things, but it is skewing closer to like the 20 to 30 years out because of the equity metrics, I think, in large part.
Would that be also
say that
to the A-line and the mass or the transit that's going in that's been delayed significantly?
I don't think that the timeline is tied to transit, although the transit stop is a big part of considerations. And
the light rail, that's what's going through Cedar and
okay, but those two are, the timelines are separated.
If you want to take a stab at, since you were at the meeting, if you want to take a stab at a resolution, I'd be glad to look at it. I don't know if you would, Chris. Do you want to take a peek at it too?
I'll take a review of it. The one thing that Barb, would you remind who presented? Did the minutes reflect who presented to us?
Yeah, it was Emma Pashuta from the Park Board.
Would you feel comfortable in sending an email to Emma just saying, remind the PAC, please, of the timeline of this project that they're doing community engagement for? I mean, is it starting next year, or is it many years out? I mean,
I can certainly do that. I just need, Chris, if you could send me her email. I don't think I have her email.
Yeah, I'm just looking through here. Oh, you can send that?
Yeah.
Okay.
She was the one who was presenting yesterday along with another Park Board staff member.
Okay.
I'll be glad to send an email.
I'm just, maybe I'm just way misremembering regarding the whole timeline of this. So.
Well,
I think they want.
Julia has the same sort of sense about it. So.
Yeah.
They're looking to get there is a timeline in the very short term for getting approval of the design, even though, which is part of my confusion around is why it's at this level of detail without actually being like climate responsive.
Yeah,
But-
I think if this is going to sit in a file folder or an electronic version of it for 12 to 15 years, I mean, all this has to be redone again.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I will write to her tomorrow or even this afternoon and ask her for some input about that.
Yeah, I wasn't sure how to delicately ask, like, essentially, is all the work you're doing right now pointless? Because that seemed to be a little bit what it feels like it comes down to is, are we designing for the context now or?
Yeah.
Great. Well, I will get to work on these minutes. I think I'm going to budget 9 to 11 hours to put the minutes together.
Excellent.
Excellent. And good. Well, I am going to, if it's okay, I'm going to go move, eat my fruit cup and relax a little bit.
Get out in that California weather. I would.
Yeah,
right.
it's so nice. I just
Really.
don't get me started. So, all right.
All right.
Well,
Adjourning. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Good seeing you
Thank
all.
you.
Take care.
Thanks,
all.
everyone.
Bye.